to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Mythic Legion's Ucczajk from the Necronominus wave. I'm a huge fan of the Ogre scale figures. Last year they introduced the dragon. This year we have the knight or armored ogre scale, and it's got a lot of new parts. It's got that new torso, new arms, new upper legs, a lot of armor parts and stuff, brand new. Additionally, this is a tribute to Greg Tchaikovsky, who works for Four Horsemen Studios and is just an ever-present collector in the community. Just an awesome dude. I love hanging out with Greg at the convention. So shout out to Greg, dude. You rock. Your figure rocks, and congrats on your tribute. Greg's a massive dude. That's why he got an ogre scale figure, by the way. If you don't know Greg, he's incredibly tall. He's like 7 feet tall, maybe 8. He might even be 10 feet tall. I'm not sure. But anyway, so this is got a really cool paint job. It's almost got like an undercoating, like a car. It's like got it's metallic, but it's got also like a pearlescent, almost a glowing quality to it, where sometimes the light reflects off it and I can see purples, but I don't know if that's just my eye playing tricks because the figure has purples elsewhere on it, or if it's actually somehow color shifted with a slight hint of purple or what. But it's a really cool overall paint job finish. I do think they could have introduced a few more paint hits and a few more paint details, but for the most part, this thing is gorgeous. This is a display piece for sure. Awesome figure. Now let's get into this review. Okay, so here's a nice close-up of this figure. If I remember correctly, Treadaway was talking about the almost architectural cathedral-like quality of this figure, and it definitely shows, especially in that head sculpt. It has again an architectural quality, like columns in a temple or something. Some nice paint detail. So on top of that silver shimmery pearlescent color I talked about earlier, you've got these golds that kind of edge and highlight everything, and then you have the purples that give it that regal quality, again elevating it to the level of like a godly, holy kind of knight here. In fact, in the chest it says Divinus Imperium, which I looked up, and Divinus is God, right? And Imperium means control or power. So the power of God, commanded by God, something along those lines. You can see the wings of Aetheron, the Heaven's Brand sword, all incorporated into that sculpture. So even though this figure is very specific to Aetheron, if you remove this piece, you actually just have a bare, normal knight's chest, and you can use it for any figure, like Baradoc, the upcoming dark ogre scale knight. And then I'll look at some other stuff here. Look at the shoulder armor. Really nice stuff. Again, I do wish there was maybe like a little more of the detail paint work, like some of these lines could have been painted or something, but it still looks awesome. It's just like kind of like where you could have added a little bit more. You can see the back of that collar piece right there. Back of the torso has some knight sculpture details and a couple hits of gold. And then you've got the arms here. Let me pull this off. So we've got the arm up top here. Let me pull both of these off. And then I'll also pull the collar off. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, so that's what it looks like without the stuff on. And then, give that a new head and it's a brand new knight. You're going to have something completely different there. So into the arms here, we got a little armored upper arm that's brand new. We've got these straps. The elbow is a floating piece I think it's glued in on the back of the arm somewhere. So that's not going to necessarily be like removable, but if you are a customizer, it is a separate piece. So they could mess around there for some variety. The lower arms are new. I can show you those without the bracers on there. So, that's not something you're going to really want to have bare, but that's what it looks like. It's just like that so that they can mix and match the different arms on the armored parts, or the different, bracer pieces on those armored parts. And so that they can, as a production, make different things. Getting into the belt, same belt as Arachagor, but with a different front piece on there. So Arachagor had a different piece glued on the front. This piece with the pouch and the belt detail and this little strap that kind of hangs down. That's a unique piece. And then the belt is the original belt. And then you have a new, I believe this is a new loincloth piece. You have cloth goods here. Really nice, shiny purple cloth goods with an application of like an overlaid gold on there. These are super nice. There's also that carries over to the back here. Not really like any decoration on the back, but you do still have that gold along the edge. Upper legs are new, so armored upper legs. Lower legs are the same as a few of the other figures. The feet is one spot where I do wish that they had not done reuse, because I would like to see some better feet on here that match this armor. It does make sense because he was an evil ogre. He was part of the impure, but I don't know. It just feels like everything is so perfect and pristine. And then he has these like kind of evil feet. The other thing that's reused is this part here. These bracers are reused. We got brand new armored ogre hands. So that's pretty sweet right there. Knight hands for the ogre. So yeah, so pretty cool looking figure. And this figure really is all about the display. It's just like a presence on a shelf. Okay, zoomed out, here's an overall look at the silhouette of the figure. It does have the ogre proportions where the legs are a little shorter, a little stubbier like the other ogres, which makes sense for this character. I know some people have complained about maybe the dragons. They wished they had made some longer legs for the dragons, or maybe some of the other ogre scaled figures. But as far as this character, this is an ogre, so it should have ogre proportions, which is what those kind of stubbier legs are, at least in the realm of mythos. Height-wise, it comes to about 9¼ inches to the top of the head, and then you're up over 9½ inches, almost 10, when you get to the top of the back of the collar piece. For comparison, starting off with a couple dragons, on the left is Scourge with Mythic Legion's parts and a Max Bird cape. On the right is Articulation, one of the best figures in the line. And here you can kind of see where, yeah, it could have been pretty cool if they had made longer. Like even if they just had made like a lower leg piece that was a bit bigger and longer for the dragons, I think it would have been pretty cool. Though I still think Articulation is like a top 10 Mythic Legions figure all time. Maybe top 5. Next, a couple OG Ogre Scale figures. On the left is the Half Giant with the Noble Barch kit, and I believe that's an Axie Toys axe that he's got there. And then on the right is the Ogre Legion Builder 2 with that Cyclops head on there. So just a sense of how it looks with the originals. Next, a couple Wavemates on that 1.0 scale so that you can see just how massive this tank is. On the left, we have Maxilius the Harvester in the sort of Grim Reaper mode. And on the right is Sir Gideon Heavensbrand. I do have a review of that one up, so go check that out. That figure's mind-blowing. Here he is with an elf and a goblin, so you can see a couple 2.0 figures. A couple big boys from other lines. On the left, the Axie Toys Dinosaur Battlefield T-Rex. On the right, the Maestro Union Blademaster Wang. NECA Ultimates, Dungeons & Dragons, Warduke, and Elkhorn. Damashi Nation's movie realization Ronin Mandalorian on the left, and the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom Tiberius on the right. Next, a couple custom Mezco figures. On the left is King Conan with the cloth goods from the Barbarian Builder set, and then pants from C. Jessam. On the right is a Gomez with the Mythic Legion's Samir Scroll Warder cloth goods. And finally, here's how he compares to a Savage Crucible figure on the left and an Icons collectible Frazetta Girls figure on the right. For accessories, he's only got a couple items. He does have this alternate skull head sculpt, which would represent if Ucczajk had died on the battlefield and Maxilius had resurrected him into the army of Necronominus. He's also got this massive hammer that's got these wings on there, super decorative kind of hammer, and it's got a face sculpted in there and a little bit of like a wing detail on the face. So very cool hammer here. It does use the same old ogre scale handle. It's painted nicely, like it's got a couple little accent colors at the grip points, but I would like to see them maybe almost retire that. Like every ogre scale figure comes with those pieces. It's got a shorter one too. And so, yeah, I will say this about the ogre scale figures. When you have a big weapon like this, it's tough to do a one-handed situation. Like I think a lot of people want to pose the figure with the weapon in the hand, like just up, but without any sort of ratcheting. Like, it's just too loose to kind of do that. Even the arm doesn't want to stay up. It's such a heavy weapon. So I would definitely say this is a two-handed kind of situation for posing it on the shelf. Okay, for articulation, this is where this figure is very limited. There's a lot of low range points of articulation here, though it does move okay and it feels pretty good. It's just not a lot of range. So you've got the head that can look up a little bit, down a little bit, and it can go side to side just a little bit, and you can twist it. Twisting it to the side is going to be limited by this collar piece a bit, but you know, a little bit of range of motion in the head there. The shoulder armor is not going to let you really bring the arms up very far. It's going to come to about there. If you remove that armor, you could definitely get a little more range in the arms, coming out to about that far. Also, if you remove that shoulder armor, you can swing it around. You do have a single jointed elbow that comes up to less than 90 degrees. There is a twist above that elbow here. And then this piece is floating, so there's no twist at the forearm. It's just one solid piece from elbow to forearm with this floating on top. And then you have a twist at the wrist and a hinge horizontally at the wrist. At the waist, he can crunch forward and back. So a lot of good movement in that waist, honestly. Like, that's probably the point of articulation with the most range in there. Getting into the hips, he does have the newer ball jointed hips that the ogres have been coming with for the last few years, which allows him to kick forward a little bit, but it puts him out to the side. It's not straightforward because of the stuff in the crotch area blocking the way. He can't kick back at all. The butt here, the chainmail butt cheeks, they actually they just stop the leg from going back really at all. They can go out into the splits quite a bit. There is a twist at the top because of that ball joint, but it gets stopped. So if you look here, like, it's stopped there and stopped there. So when the leg's down, it doesn't twist a ton. You have to bring it out a little bit to get it to twist. Single jointed knee, also less than 90 degrees. Twist below the knee. You have a hinge at the ankle, and then you have a rocker and a twist at that ankle as well. And like I said, very limited in the articulation. This is an ogre scale figure and they don't have a lot of movement. In fact, the dragons move a lot better. I think the dragons made some progress, but this, you know, there wasn't really much change here in terms of like adding articulation. It's roughly the same as the original ogres. One thing I did want to mention here, it does have two sets of holes for the shoulder armor. It comes with them already on in the box, so there's no confusion really, but they do go, these shoulder armors go into the lower ports, and then the upper ports you could use for other armor, or I'm sure they have plans for something else for the figures, you know, maybe Baradoc uses those upper ones. All right, just one swap here. The neck does not fit. It actually looks great, but the problem is the neck peg on Ucczajk is the standard ogre neck peg, and it's like huge, and the neck peg on the dragon is a lot smaller, so that is going to be something that is not really compatible. But a little sticky tack, you know, goes a long way, and you can definitely just sort of fudge it if you want. So yes, it does have some articulation limits, but otherwise this figure is awesome. It's just an absolute unit, a presence on the shelf, and a nice addition to the ogres with that armored body. That'll do it for my review. Congrats again, Greg. Thanks everybody for watching, and until next time, may the force be with you.